This is the episode. This is the one. It's got Hephaestus, we've got Aries, we've got Tunnel of Love, we've got the Fates. It's all going down. I'm so excited. Also, they still think she's dead.
Yeah. We should probably get out of here, don't you think?
The knitting.
Annabeth, he's alive. I know it's bad, but I knew you'd never agree. And there wasn't enough time. So, really anything you need tickets for? I think this quest might be harder than we thought. I'm the last person to realize this, aren't I? Just let it pass. Come on. Why are you being weird with me again? I thought we weren't doing that anymore. I'm not being weird. Yes, you are. You've been weird since we left the arch. It doesn't have to be a thing, you know? They hug me. Oh, boy. Maybe it's now. It seems like a thing friends do. At least they think they do.
I saw the Fates. Back at the arch, I saw the 3 Fates, and I saw Atropus cut a piece of thread.
And that's bad, or...
Fates weave the life strand of every living thing. When you see a string cut,
It means one of us is going to die.
We're all gonna die. Eventually.
Soon. It's a warning. An omen.
I love this.
Okay, guys. We need to talk about when I choose to do changes, it's gonna happen. And I can choose to do anything I want.
You sure? Because you guys are so behind schedule. Give me a second. I'm just starting to fight on Twitter here.
Percy was always troubled, but I never thought he was capable of something like this.
Who's that? My stepdad. What's he doing?
Wait for it.
A kid that messed up, what wouldn't he do?
What?
Wild, right? The FBI is already spreading your picture around.
Camaro. We really love that car. So much.
I'm gonna kill him.
I knew I was gonna like you.
Who said if we return the bullet, there wouldn't be a war?
Is that what she said? Or is that what Kyron said she meant? Yeah. You're the family young ones, so let me fill you in on Ray. We backstab. We will push anyone down a flight of stairs to get ahead. And that's why I love my family so much.
You left your shield? Like, forgot on the merry-go-round?
Deal, or am I killing all 3 of you so I can eat in peace?
I know what I'm doing. Go, get the shield. I'll be here when you get back.
I've never seen any kind of movie. I'll just take your word for it.
Never? What do you mean never? Like never?
Is there another kind?
Well, now that Russ is dead in a few days, we really ought to fix that. You're missing out. This is build amusement park.
Maybe he finds them amusing?
That's really not funny, Annabeth.
Casual World War II buff. You've seen Saving Private Ryan, have you?
I prefer the Turbot War. The Lobster War? The 335 Years War. Your deep cuts.
So you've been trying to tell me not to be worried about this.
I didn't say anything.
I can feel you thinking it.
My mom told me these stories all the time. I remember this. She said,
Did you just pull me out of there with that water power stuff?
no,
Did you just...
I don't know. Maybe figuring this out as I go.
Sister. Athena. Oh. Which is kind of all that matters.
I'm setting up Clover as the villain.
It was a gift.
They're trying to make us believe
Hephaestus
Clover
offered it to
is
Hera.
the traitor.
But as soon as she sat me, she couldn't get up.
This isn't the arch seaweed brain. You're not pushing me into the stairwell.
Yes, I am.
I'm not gonna let you this time.
Wait.
You just are. And you know it. I wish there was another way this quest succeeds. I just don't see it.
I'm gonna glitch.
I'm not leaving the underworld without your mom.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Maybe swing back here and try to get me out of this thing.
You think you had to ask?
It's okay. I'm okay.
What is happening? I would kill myself. I would break down. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's horrible. Oh my god, he's such a little weirdo.
I know your mother was displeased with you recently.
He isn't that way. He's better than that. Maybe I was that way once. But I don't want to be that way anymore.
You're a good kid, Annabeth. I'll put it the Lotus Casino in Vegas. Hermes hangs out there. You play your cards right, and his personal driver can get you to LA in minutes. Here, man had plenty of kids he stopped caring about once he lost interest.
I know who stole the Master War.
What? He's wrong.
Something bigger.
Hey, demigods, welcome.
We have a huge problem.
Oh my god. That's crazy. Let's go. Hello. So today I'm going to be talking about episode 5 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I'm very excited. Episode 5 was a really, really good episode. You know, it's got that Persebeth. It really does, though. There's just a lot to talk about. But I don't have specific notes written for this episode like I do normally. Because although a lot happened and it was very important, it's a pretty simple, like, episode. It's pretty much just the Tunnel of Love and then the Ares and Grover chat. That's like the main part of the episode. And then there's like a little bit at the beginning. So like it was pretty like singular, if that makes sense. But yeah. So as always, I'm gonna start with my complaints. And today I only have one. And this isn't really a this is sort of just like a personal thing that I liked in the book that wasn't in the show, but it's not like a real like actual complaint about something that's making the show worse. Like, it doesn't really matter. But my one complaint is that in the Tunnel of Love scene, there wasn't the whole, like, in the books, it's like there's like spiders, there's like animatronic spiders that come out and like attack Percy and Annabeth during that whole thing. And I will say the Tunnel of Love is different in the book versus the show, and I think overall the show is better, like so much better. And with what they did in the show, the spiders doesn't really make sense because it's sort of a thing that's like they're like, we gotta get out of here, it's a trap, like we gotta get out of the Tunnel of Love. But like in the show, it's like they sort of are like staying in there and they're like trying to figure out this thing inside of it. So like the spiders wouldn't really make sense because they're not really trying to escape in the show like they are in the book. But I just love the whole, like, Annabeth's sphere of spiders is always something that's so interesting to me because it's like, first of all, like, the whole story about, like, before she ran away, like, spiders would come and attack her, and, like, her parents didn't believe her and stuff, and that was, like, one of the big things that led her to not, like, feeling like she belonged in her home and stuff like that. And also just, like, it comes back in the Mark of Athena, her fear of spiders being, like, a huge thing she has to face, and it's sort of, like, one of Annabeth's main weaknesses, because she is pretty much, like, strong in every other way, you know? So it's just, I just thought it was, like, an interesting thing in the book, and I love the whole gag of, like, she's so brave and she does all this stuff and she's so much smarter than Percy, but then they're in the tunnel of love and the spiders come out and she starts, like, screaming her head off, and she's unable to, like, think like she normally is, and Percy is like, oh my god, what do I do? Like, Annabeth's not here to, like, lead me anymore. It's just a really funny moment that I loved in the books. But it's like, that's, like, my one complaint, that wasn't in there, but, like, who cares? So yeah, moving on to the rest of the episode. So the end of episode 4 was sort of like the, like, not like the mid-season finale, I guess. It's like end of episode 4, we're going into the second half of the season now. I will say, I do think that they took, like, a break in between episode 4 and episode 5. I don't know, but, like, if you look at the, like, they're doing, like, these little cute Mythomagic, like, poster card things for each episode, and if you look at all of them side by side, Walker, like, grows up in them so fast. And I think between episode 4 and episode 5 they took, like, a month, like, some sort of break, because he like grew a lot. But yeah, also I do think we should stop talking about, like, Walker's 15, he's getting so old. It doesn't matter. No one cares. We don't care. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so yeah, we're starting the episode. Grover and Annabeth don't know Percy's status. They're like, is he dead? Is he alive? Because he just, he kicked them out of the St. Louis Arch, sent them down into the bottom while he fought the Chimera, and they're like, surely, like, something happened. Like, the arch is on fire. And so they're like, Percy's dead. But Annabeth is like, no, he's alive. I just know it. Which is sort of a bit of a reference to the Titan's Curse, where Annabeth is like, Luke is alive. I know. I just feel it. And Percy's like, gross. So yeah, Annabeth is like, no, he's alive. I know it. And something that happens immediately at the beginning of this episode, which, like, I cannot believe it, dude, because one of my main complaints this entire, like, out of all the episodes has been that the Fates cutting the string wasn't there. And, like, in my episode 1, episode 2 breakdown thing, that was, like, one of my main complaints. I was like, I just wish the Fates were there. Like, it's such cool foreshadowing for, like, the 5th season, the 5th book, whatever. Like, I just love it, and I wish it was there. And they really had me in the first half, because they waited 4 episodes, or 5 episodes, but they finally put it in. And Annabeth sees the Fates, which is not what happens in the books. In the books, it's Percy who sees the Fates, and Grover's with him, and Grover acknowledges it, and Grover's like, that's not good. And it's like this whole thing. And it's slightly different, because in the books, they very much interpreted it as, if the Fates cut a string and you see it, it means you're gonna die. But, like, that never, obviously Percy doesn't die, and so it, like, it ends up being, spoiler alert, Luke in book 5 when he dies. But in the show, they had Annabeth see the Fates, and Grover doesn't see the Fates, I'm pretty sure. He's more worried about the police, but Annabeth sees the Fates, she sees them cut the string, and she interprets it as, like, somebody is gonna die. So it's not, like, a whole thing about, like, oh no, Annabeth's gonna die, but it's just, like, someone's in danger. So yeah, but then also I love how specifically in The Lightning Thief, you know, they're trying to get to the underworld. They've got like monsters against them and all this stuff, but like a huge part of their challenges is because the literal just like the police are after them. Like the just normal human mortal police are trying to find them because they're causing trouble. And I just think that's always such a funny thing, is that they're literally on the run from the police. But yeah, so like Grover's worried about the police. He's like, we gotta get out of here. And so Annabeth and Grover are like, okay, we're gonna go look for Percy. They're walking along the dock, or like whatever, like the railing along the Mississippi River, and Percy hops over the railing, is like, hey, I'm alive. And there's like they're like apart, and then Percy's like, guys, I'm sorry I shoved you in the elevator, like I know, we didn't have time and all this stuff. And as like they're walking towards him, and Annabeth just gives him this big hug, which is so cute. And it's just like, dude, it reminds me of in Battle Labyrinth when he returns from Calypso's island, and they're literally holding a funeral for him because they think that he died, and Annabeth is like, he is the bravest friend I ever had, and he's right there. And she like runs up to him and she's like, where were you? Like, we've been worried sick. And then she gives him the biggest hug, and it's like, it's so cute. And then what happens? So she gives him a big hug. It's really funny and awkward, and he's like, oh, okay. And then Grover's like, so, okay, guys, the police are after us. We can't get on public transportation. And then there's this really funny jump cut to them just like walking along the side of the road trying to get to, oh, they're going to Santa Monica now, because Percy sort of at the end of episode 4 learned how to breathe. His dad obviously saved him, and all this stuff, so he's sort of in with Poseidon now. And so he's like, we gotta go to Santa Monica, that's where my dad is, he's gonna help us with our quest. And so they're like, okay, we're gonna walk to Santa Monica. So they're like on the side of the highway, they're walking, they're chatting, they're just like sort of planning how it's gonna go. Percy has this really funny moment where he's like, this quest is hard, and they're like, yeah, we know. They're like, we knew this for a while. And then they see a little biker come up, and they're like, oh, we gotta hide behind this thing. We're just like, we don't want to worry about that. And so they hide behind this little like road barrier thing. And Percy and Annabeth are like kind of weird, and Percy's like, why are you being so weird? I thought we weren't like that anymore. And Annabeth is like, whatever. I don't know if this is where she tells him. It's basically she's being weird because she saw the fates cut a string, and she's like, I don't know what this means. But he literally, I don't remember what he says, but he's like, is it because you hugged me? Like, it's okay, you're my friend, we can hug. It's so stupid. And she's like, no, it's because I saw a fate cut a string, and that's not good. And so whatever. Then this biker that's come up on the side of the road is like still here, and they're like, stranger danger, we don't want to talk to you. And then it's kind of revealed that it's Ares. I will say, wait, what does he say? He says like, but you're so far behind on your quest, or something like that. And it's just this like, I don't know what it is specifically about that line or that moment. It's just that, like, when you think that it's just like a normal person, because like obviously we know it was Ares, but like when you think it's just a normal person and they're like, hey, we're just trying to like hang out here, like don't worry about us, and then you realize that like he's part of their world, he understands what's happening with them, and he like knows more about them than they know about him. This just sort of like creepy sort of like, but you're so far behind, and they're like, how do you know that? All this stuff. So good. And just to talk about Ares in general for a second, yo, the casting for this man is so good. So I don't know a lot about him, but the actor is Adam Copeland, I believe, and he is a wrestler. Like, he's acted, I was looking up his like credits and stuff, and he's acted in like 2 things before, like years ago, but he's like a wrestler. And he just like joined the show as Ares. I'm like, that is so good. I can't even believe how good the casting is, but he's so perfect as Ares. It's unbelievable. So I will just go ahead and say that. I do love him. And so he's like, meet me at this tavern, bar, place up the road and we can chat if you want to. And so they're like, because he essentially is like, I'm gonna help you on your quest because I'm one of Zeus's children. An ongoing gag in Rick's books is when some random person shows up and is like, hello brother, or hello cousin, or like, I'm your uncle, like, because the family tree is obviously just insane with the Greek gods and stuff, and so everyone is somehow related. And so Ares rolls up and is like, hello cousin. It's crazy. And so he's like, I'll help you out, meet me at this bar up the road. And so they sort of walk in. There's this whole joke about Ares being on Twitter and like starting Twitter fights, because like obviously he's the god of war, so in 2023 that means starting Twitter fights. And then they sort of just have this little heated conversation, and he's like, if you get my shield back from this amusement park called Waterland, then I'll help you out on your quest. I'll like, you know, I'll just help you along a little bit. And they're sort of fighting a little bit. He's got a real attitude with Annabeth because she's a daughter of Athena and she's got no time for him. And yeah, so then he's like, you guys go ahead. And does he tell specifically Annabeth and Percy to do it? I don't know. But basically Grover is like, you guys go, I'm gonna stay behind and stay with Ares. And they're like, no Grover, no, you don't want to do that. And he's like, guys, trust me, it'll be fine. And so Grover stays behind and Percy and Annabeth head to Waterland. And this is sort of where like the meat and potatoes of the episode happens. It's cutting between Grover and Ares and Percy and Annabeth. And so it starts with sort of Percy and Annabeth show up at Waterland. It's this really like spooky abandoned water park. It's like late at night. It's real creepy. And Percy walks in, there's like a spinning gate, and there's like this mechanism thing happening, and Percy and Annabeth are like, oh my gosh, it's a trap, oh no. And Percy's like stuck there and he's just standing really still. It's like it's like not a necessary thing, but it's just very interesting. Percy's like very scared. He's like, Annabeth, what is this? Is this about to kill me? What's happening? And Annabeth is like analyzing the mechanism, and she realizes, this is sort of them realizing that this isn't like a normal sort of abandoned water park. It's sort of weird and definitely part of the gods and all of that. And so she realizes the mechanism is made of celestial bronze, and she's like, it's not gonna kill you, it's just like the gods just want to know that we're here. And so it's all good. They're making their way through. And slowly, so a main part of this episode is just about how Ares and Hephaestus have beef. And so they sort of start to realize that Hephaestus built this amusement park. And they're just sort of like, there's something weird going on here, but whatever. And they show up to the Tunnel of Love, and it like lights up right in front of them, and they're like, okay, so I guess we gotta go in there. And Annabeth is like, don't even try to tell me that this isn't weird. And Percy's like, I didn't say anything. And she said, I know you were thinking it. And it's so funny because in the book all three of them are there, and Percy's like, we need to go in the Tunnel of Love. And Annabeth goes, me? Go in the Tunnel of Love with you? And Percy's like, it doesn't, there's no one here. It doesn't, she's like, what if someone sees me? And Percy's like, we're in an abandoned water park, it doesn't matter. It's so funny. Like, the Tunnel of Love is always iconic, and this was one of the most, like, I was so excited to see this adapted into the TV show. So I just love it. And so they're just being like really weird and like obviously like awkward about going in the tunnel of love together. And they're like, okay, guess we gotta go. And so then it sort of cuts back to Grover and Ares in the little restaurant bar thing. And this part is really interesting because for a while, like in the press and all this stuff, they have been teasing that there's this interrogation scene between Grover and Ares that isn't in the books. And I'm pretty sure it was Arian specifically who was like, I'm not going to tell you who's interrogating who, but it's a pretty fun scene. And when I heard that, I was like, okay guys, like obviously it's Ares interrogating Grover. Like in what world is Grover interrogating Ares, the god of war? But that just goes to show how much they have improved Grover's character. Because in the book, Grover, like, not to hate on him or anything, but he is not, like, it's, like, I don't want to say that he's weak, but, like, bro, he's not capable, if that makes sense. Like, love him to death. He's a great friend, but his main things are that he likes food, and that he is just, like, looking for Pan, and it seems like he's just, like, in his own world. But in the show, Grover, he's the heart of the group. He's keeping them together. He's keeping them focused on the mission. He's, like, making it happen. He's sort of, like, not to say that he's the brains of the group when Annabeth is right there, obviously, but, like, he's literally, like, the parent of the group, because he is 24. He's older than them, although, like, whatever, Grover, or, like, Sator's aged differently, so he's, like, technically the same age as them, but he is older. He's got a little more, like, wisdom, whatever, and that is really coming through. And so if you told me it was Grover interrogating Ares, I would have laughed in your face, but it is, like, Grover is literally interrogating Ares, and it's so good. And so he's sitting there and he's just talking to Ares. And basically, we sort of find out in the end that his whole motive here is trying to find out who the lightning thief is. And so he's just talking to Ares. He's sort of getting on Ares' good side. He's talking about different wars and stuff. Because Ares is very, like, you know, not a fan of satyrs, little, like, woodland creatures and all this stuff as the god of war. He's just, like, not, whatever, he's not into it. But then Grover is talking about how, like, you know, like, war is a part of nature, like, it's like a part of the brutality is like a part of nature and a part of all of that. And so they sort of start talking. Grover's talking about how he's, like, a fan of Ares and, like, all this stuff. And so they're sort of becoming bros. And slowly Grover shifts the conversation to, like, oh, who could be the lightning thief? All this stuff. And they start talking about Athena and how much Ares hates Athena. And really just about how, in this part, we're sort of getting, like, how messed up the godly family tree is, which, you know, although Percy and Annabeth and, like, Grover and Ares are, like, separate things happening, it all combines to this one main theme about the gods not really being a family you want to be a part of, right? And so that's sort of where it then cuts back to Percy and Annabeth. And they are now on the tunnel of love. They're going through. It's sort of spooky and, like, abandoned or whatever. Suddenly, What Is Love, the song, starts playing, which is so hilarious. Because Rick Riordan is known for his, like, elevator music, specifically. Like, every time they go up to Olympus, which is obviously, like, in an elevator, there's always a song playing. Oh my god, what is it in The Last Olympian? It's, like, If You Like Pina Coladas, I think, or something like that. It happens in The Last Olympian. It happens when Percy, spoiler alert, when Percy and Annabeth are coming out of Tartarus in the House of Hades. I'm pretty sure Staying Alive is playing. It happens in the Chalice of the Gods. Daft Punk Get Lucky is playing when Percy goes up. Like, it's a recurring joke of Rick's that he loves in elevator music. He loves a little cringy song playing and characters being like, this is not the time. It's just like an awkward song that doesn't fit the vibe of the moment is his main gag, and I love it. So Annabeth and Percy are obviously like sitting here, they're kind of stressed. They're like, how do we get this shield? And then suddenly, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more. Like, oh, it kills me. And then as they're going through, little like animations on the walls of like the story. This isn't specifically like, I don't know if this is like the story of Hephaestus, if that's like the Greek, I don't know how to explain this. You know, there's like the Odyssey. I don't know if this has like a name, but just like the general story of Hephaestus starts being portrayed on the walls of the Tunnel of Love. Of like him being born from the hip or whatever, the butt, whatever, and everyone just thinking he's ugly, and then him being turned down by Hera, him being turned down by Aphrodite, his little like feud with Ares, all this stuff. Basically just being like, yo, give Hephaestus some love, like everyone hates him. And so they're like, okay, Hephaestus made this, what's up, what's happening? Because they know that Ares and Hephaestus hate each other. And while they're there, they have an important conversation as they're watching this like story be portrayed about specifically, and this is a question I've been asking for so long, bro. Because I asked this in my like episode 1, episode 2, probably episode 1 video. About like, why did Sally not want Percy to like be at Camp Half-Blood? Because I'm like, obviously he would be a lot safer, you know what I mean, being protected and all that. I'm like, why would he not benefit from that? But he sort of answers it at this point because he's explaining how Sally didn't want Percy to be a part of this whole family because like that's how they treat each other, you know what I mean? Like Ares and Hephaestus, like Ares stole Aphrodite from him and all this stuff, and they're like, they don't love each other, they're mean to each other, they're evil, they're rude, like they're crazy. And Sally didn't want Percy to be a part of that, you know what I mean? And so that's sort of like a big part of this episode. And so they're going through, they're getting towards, they enter like this room. And then there's like a statue, and when they see Ares' shield, it's up there. And so they jump out of the boat, they're swimming, the water's all rough and stuff, it's like crazy. There's like a gorgeous shot of them underwater, like reaching for each other, and then it like blacks out. And then they get like spat out onto the ledge where there's this golden throne, and then there's this golden statue and the shield. And Percy doesn't even realize like that he used his powers, but he did, and he used his powers to save him and Annabeth, like subconsciously, dude, like so cute. And so then they're there, and they're like, okay, how do we get this shield? And they're realizing like one of us has to sit there. And then, okay, this is the best moment of the episode and maybe the best moment of the show thus far. And it's Percy and Annabeth deciding who is gonna, you know, like sit in the chair and like sacrifice themselves. And so they're sort of like, okay, only one of us is getting out of here. What do we do? And then Percy's like, I'll do it. And, or no. So Percy's like, wait. And then Annabeth's like, I'll sit in the chair. And Percy says, no, if one of us is, like only one of us is gonna get out of here, and so we gotta, like, think about this. And Percy's like, yeah, I'm not letting you do that. You know what I'm saying? And then Annabeth says, this isn't the arch, seaweed brain, which, like, first of all, she's like, you sacrificed yourself for us at the arch, like, gotta repay the favor, I'm gonna sit in the chair. Second of all, she called him seaweed brain for the first time, which is hugely significant. Yeah. And so then he's like, no, like, I have to do it. Like, you gotta go and, like, finish this quest on your own. And then he says this line, which is maybe my favorite line in the show entire, like, as a whole. He says, "You're better at this than me. You just are, and you know it." It's so crazy. And the way that Walker delivers this line, like, there are moments, I mean, this entire scene, where I'm just like, these little actors are so good. Like, they are delivering, dog. I'm like, there's like, oh my god, what is it, bro? There's a line somewhere. Oh, it's in episode 3. Wait, what does he say? Oh, it's when Percy says, "And I feel so alone." Like, he says that line with such, like, weight and such rawness, and it, like, breaks your heart. And then in this episode, when he says, "You're better at this than me, you just are," it's so heartbreaking, because Percy, it's him, he's still here, and, like, first of all, he's still feeling inadequate and, like, not... What was that noise, dog? My house sounds like it's gonna blow up for real. What was that? Anyway, okay. Percy is still feeling inadequate. He still feels like there's noises. Bro, I'm back. I literally thought there were ghosts in my house. I can't do it. What was I talking about? Okay, Percy feels inadequate, and he's like, "I suck at this, like, you know more than me," all this stuff. And so there's, like, that side of it, but there's also a side of it where Percy's entirely not thinking about himself. He's fully just validating Annabeth, which is like... I'm just thinking about all the little girls who are watching this show and who are gonna, like, absolutely just look up to Annabeth. And, like, me, like, when I read the books when I was 12, I was just like, Annabeth she's so smart and capable, and I just felt so, like, comforted by that notion that Annabeth was able to, like, just, like be so strong in her own, on her own, you know? And just for them to hone in on this idea that, like, although Percy is, like, the hero and the main character and all this stuff, Annabeth is better than him. Like, in, like, a literal sense, she's better than him. She's better, she's smarter, she's more skilled, like, she just had more training. She is more equipped to fulfill this quest than he is. And for him to explicitly be like, "You're better at this than me, and you know that you are." And even in, like, episode 4, when they're at the Arch, and he's like, "Don't listen to me, like, I've been a demigod for, like, a week. You've been training for years," and all this stuff. The way that it's so explicit that Annabeth is so strong and amazing is just incredible. I love it. And so they have this whole dramatic scene, and they sort of decide Percy's gonna sit in the chair and, like, see what happens. And so he walks up and he's like, "Okay, just promise me one thing." And then Annabeth is like, "Oh, when we get to the underworld, I will not leave without your mom." Just, like, he doesn't have to say anything. She just says that. And I'm like, that's so sweet. Because Annabeth's never met Sally Jackson. She doesn't even know what Sally Jackson looks like. All she knows is that Sally is important to Percy, and it's his whole reason for going on this quest. So she's like, "I'll do it." And he says, like, "Okay, but I was gonna say, once you finish the quest, you know, try to find a way to come back and save me." And she's like, you think you even had to ask? Like, duh. Like, whoo, like, it's already... And I have to mention, earlier in this episode, Percy already called Annabeth his friend. So, like, at this point, they're, like, on the friend, like, they're friends, for sure. And so Percy goes and he sits down in his chair. There's noises again, bro. He goes and he sits down in his chair, and he's like, "It feels warm." Like, okay, Percy. And then this is one of the most insane parts of the episode. He's sitting down and he has tears in his eyes. And Annabeth's like, Percy, this isn't a good idea, you have to get up. And Percy's like, it's okay. And then Annabeth is like, Percy, get up, I mean it. And she's like crying at this point. She's very upset. And then Percy is sitting there, and he, as the gold of the throne like encases him, he has tears in his eyes, he looks so scared, and he's just telling Annabeth, he's like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then it's like sort of like, and it's like towards the end as he's saying it, it seems like he's just like saying it to himself. He's like, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then he says, and then he gets cut off, and then we cut back to him, and he's entirely like, he's part of the chair now, and he's just like not, he's like dead, I guess. Like, dude, I don't know the logistics of the Hephaestus throne, but he's either like in a dead state or he is dead. Like, I don't think he's conscious under there, you know what I mean? So, kind of spooky. And so, like, I will say, as like the gold is like covering up and he's like saying, I'm okay, I'm okay, the music is like growing more intense and more intense, and it's like a whole thing. And then as he dies, the music cuts out and it's so silent, and Annabeth's just there alone, and she's just like sitting in this moment of just like, I'm alone, he's gone. And she's like freaking out for real. And so she immediately tries to like, okay, also the shield drops, and it's like this huge like loud like drop of this shield. And I don't know, I feel like there's some moment that I've seen before that I can compare this to. Oh my god, I really want to think about this. Wait, hold on, I'm gonna figure it out. Dude, I can't think of what it is specifically, but like I'm thinking maybe like in Squid Games. This is crazy. I'm thinking either like Squid Games, where, you know, like in like episode 6 or whatever, where like the old man dies, but it's like, and he's like so upset, the main character is like so upset, but he gets to move on and like live, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of vibe, where it's like your best friend has died, but you get the reward that you were seeking, sort of thing. And I was like thinking that, or in like Avengers Endgame, when like spoiler alert, when Tony Stark dies, it's like this, you know, this hero died, but like the world was saved. It's that kind of, I just love that, like the what word am I thinking of, dude? The duology, no, what? Oh my god, I'm gonna have a stroke for real. Whatever, the complexity of like giving up something to win something else and just being like, is it worth it? That's what I'm trying to say, dude. I don't care. Anyway, it's quiet. Annabeth has the shield now, and she's trying to like look at the mechanics on this chair and figure out a way to set Percy free. And she's so frustrated because like even like her being the smartest person ever, she can't figure it out. And as she's doing it, this door opens up from like up in the building, and a man walks out, and he's like, do you need, like, you can leave now, queen, you can leave, you're not gonna save him. And she's like, I'm trying to save my friend. And she doesn't even like pay him any attention. She's really just focusing on this machine. She's trying to turn this gear, and it's not working. And then he's like, it's not gonna work, and I know, because I built it. And she's like, because she realizes it's Hephaestus. And so basically he's just here, and he's like, you can't beat it, you know, take the shield and go, sweetie. And they have this really, it's a very short scene, but it's so effective in that Annabeth is, you know, like Percy's pretty much like not there. He's like dead. We're pretty much accepted that he's dead. And she is like the gods, like how you treat each other, it's horrible. And like all this like trying to just like glory and just like trying to beat each other out for all this stuff, it's so stupid. And like all this fighting that you're doing is so dumb. And Percy understood that, and he constantly called it out, and he is not like you guys. And I was like you guys in the past, trying to like please Athena and all this stuff, but I don't want to be that way. And he has allowed me to see it that way, and that like I don't want to be like the gods, I don't want to please the gods, all this stuff. And Annabeth is just saying all this to Hephaestus, like so like she doesn't care that he's a god and that he has all this power over her in a way. And as she's explaining this and how like toxic the Greek god family is, he really resonates with that, and Hephaestus, the king he is, lets Percy go. And it's like so, it's not like super, it's not too short, it just is a short scene, but it's so effective in showing that like how like just characterizing the gods. Hephaestus isn't in The Lightning Thief. In fact, I don't know if we ever even speak to Hephaestus. Like, we really don't ever get his perspective. So there's something about this god who we've really never had a moment to characterize before in this universe, showing up for this one scene, saying so little, honestly just like listening to what Annabeth is saying and just like resonating with it, because he's like a victim of all that, because he's like the runt of the family, like everyone thinks he's ugly. That's like Hephaestus' whole story, is that everyone thinks he's ugly and like not worthy of whatever. And so he really, like, for it to be Hephaestus being there and resonating with this story and therefore allowing Annabeth and Percy to both walk away unharmed is so, like, it's so good, dude. I can't, it all works so well. Like, it's so cohesive. The themes are theming. It's so good. And I love, like, in the original series, I guess we do meet a lot of the gods, but like not a lot in The Lightning Thief. Like, we've already met obviously Dionysus, Ares, and Hephaestus, and like as an audience we've seen Hermes, but like they were technically not going to meet Hermes until episode 6, I think. And then we're going to meet Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus, obviously. And then like the rest of the gods we won't meet until later. But for them to just like characterize these people so well is so amazing. And so basically they get the shield, it's all dandy, and then like Grover and Ares are still talking, and oh wait, hold on, no, we need to go back. Hephaestus, this is just something for me. Hephaestus says the line, "You're a good kid, Annabeth," which I know that's such a like vague line, but a part of me is like, the hit song from the musical was Good Kid, and for them to be like, "You're a good kid, Annabeth," I feel like that's a reference, and I know that's probably not, but I can interpret that how I want, and I'm interpreting it as a Lightning Thief musical reference. So yeah. And then basically Grover and Ares are still having this conversation, and Grover, okay, I'm just gonna talk about this scene a little more generally, because there's not a lot of important stuff that's said. It's more of like the outcome of the conversation that's important. But in this scene, first of all, I've got two things to say. First of all, Grover is shown being so smart and like being able to really like direct this conversation in his own way, and like being the real, like, he's trying to get information here, you know what I mean? And it's so smart, and it's so cool to see Grover being such a boss. Like, I love to see it. I love to see Grover helping out the quest. Okay, it's entirely the next day, and I know I look crazy, but to continue my thought about Grover, basically, in that scene, he was just very, like, his character was so leveled up, I loved it, but I literally, and I don't know if this was what they were actually going for, or if this is just, like, me interpreting it weird on, like, the first watch of it, but they were making it seem kind of like trying to do like a red herring with Grover and make people think that he is the traitor. And I don't know if anyone else caught that, but I definitely was thinking like, are they trying to like fool new fans who haven't read the books into making them think that Grover is the Lightning Thief? Because like I was getting some of those vibes during that scene. It was just like the way that like, so there were just some shots, like camera shots on him where it was like from up here and he just looked like he was scheming, and I'm just like, it's sort of making it feel like he knows something that we don't, but I don't know if that's actually what they were trying to do. That's just sort of what I saw. But then Percy and Annabeth show up to the little diner thing, and they give Ares his shield, and then they all go outside, and Ares is like, boom, you got my shield, so this is a truck, it's gonna take you to Vegas, and there you can meet Hermes, and he will help you get to Los Angeles. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. But then Grover's like Ares like leaves, and Grover's like, I think I figured out who the Lightning Thief is. And so we're like, okay. And at this point, I don't really know what, like, he thinks it's Ares, I guess. I don't know, dude. But like, it sort of cuts off there with Grover being like, I think I know who the Lightning Thief is. So it's like, we'll see on Tuesday, I guess. But also Ares gives Percy the backpack, which like at this point is supposed to be like supplies and whatever, but obviously we know that like the bolt is in there, all the drama. So yeah, that's pretty much the episode. And then the little flash like sneak peek of next week's episode obviously has Hermes. It's the whole Lotus Casino. There's like a shot of like Percy driving a car. Like, it's crazy. So I'm really excited for next week's episode. But this is just something that I want to sort of predict or like talk about before seeing what they do with it. But obviously at the end of this episode they're like about to get onto the zoo truck, and in the lore of like Percy Jackson, like Percabeth, the zoo truck is like pretty important, because when we get like in Mark of Athena, which is the first book where we get Annabeth POV chapters, she talks about how like the zoo truck was like the first moment when she like actually had like a crush on Percy. And like in the book, the zoo truck is really like the first moment where they're sort of like becoming friends, and like Annabeth is like, I'm gonna be on your side because we're friends, any more stupid questions, like all that stuff. So it's sort of their like connection moment, and they sort of talk about like Annabeth's whole like family and like Talia and all that stuff. And so like it's a pretty important scene in the books. But my thinking is that at this point, Percy and Annabeth are already friends. Like they've already had those like moments of connection, and like they've already talked about Annabeth's past with her family and with Talia. Like Percy already knows about Grover like being the leader of their quest. Like everything that happens in the zoo truck scene has sort of already been established. And so I'm like, I don't know what they're gonna do with the scene, because it's like important and it's like iconic, but it's sort of already been done. So I don't know if they're just gonna still do the scene but sort of like change it a little bit and make it like even more whatever, like more important. Or if they just like won't do it, because like they've already done it, you know what I mean? So I don't know. But if they don't do the zoo truck scene in like the way that they do in the books, I think we can like consider the Tunnel of Love to be like the first official like Percabeth moment. So that's exciting, but like we'll see what happens next week. But yeah. That's all. Bye.